Hello and welcome. It's another episode of Empire of the Cop Insider. I'm your host, Farrell Keeling, and we've got the lovely Neil Jones here with us again to discuss what was a rather impressive, well-rounded 3-0 win, I'd have to say, over Nottingham Forest. We're going to dive right into that very shortly. I did want to discuss what is a rather distressing situation for the club and, of course, the player in Luis Diaz. I believe his mother has been recovered. Efforts are still ongoing to search for the player's father in Colombia, with efforts combined between the Colombian police and army, I believe was the last I heard of it. A Klopp described it well, I believe, when he was talking about it, sort of saying it's a new experience that he never needed. How is everyone at the club sort of handling the situation? Because I think in the circumstances it was a very as I said, professional performance, and I think just an indication of just the strength of character at the club.
Yeah, I think you're right. Jürgen did sort of made the point that it's very hard to make football big in this kind of situation. It's very hard to sort of talk about how important 3 points are and performances and that kind of thing. But I think he hit the right note, really. He said, all we can do is sort of, what we can do, isn't it? And what we can do is fight for the team and for the club and for Luis Diaz himself. And, it was a very touching moment when Diogo Jota came across. I think it would have been whoever scored. Obviously, I don't think it was limited to Jota, but it was a very touching moment when he came across and lifted the shirt up. I saw it around the ground. There was a lot of Colombian flags. I mean, there usually are a few Colombian flags, to be fair, just in any given day. But I think there were even more around yesterday. And of course, the song, the old Suarez song, revived for Luis Diaz with "I Just Can't Get Enough," and that was it feels very insignificant, doesn't it? But it's about all you can do, isn't it? In a situation such as this, you can show your support, you can show your solidarity. And I know, obviously, I saw Dominik Szoboszlai spoke, and he said, a few of the players didn't know until they woke up on Sunday morning what had happened, and they had a meeting around it with Jürgen Klopp, and it was explained to them what had happened, and that Luis Diaz had gone back to his family, and that he wouldn't be playing in the game, obviously. So I think in the circumstances, I think for the players, it was something that they just had to deal with and had to move on. And they showed that they're with their, I think Jürgen called him their brother, didn't he? That's the way it's sort of viewed within the team, that there is this close knit environment, there is this sort of solidarity within them all, and it manifested itself in the game. And it doesn't change the situation. We're all still very much awaiting the best possible news from it. But yeah, I think at the moment all we've got to do is wait and keep our fingers crossed.
No, absolutely, well said. And I think Diaz would have started the game. It's fair to say, had the unfortunate incident not taken place, Jota came in his place and scored a vital goal. Lovely tribute from the player, and I think it really also shows how important. I do get the sense sometimes that perhaps Diogo Jota is overlooked, even if he's considered as part of the overall sort of attacking firepower that Liverpool have at their disposal. His contributions can be a little bit underrated. I feel at times. That is 6 goals in all competitions now, I believe, for Diogo Jota, and just a player that continues to be absolutely vital to what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me. And a lucky charm as well. 38 games he scored in for Liverpool, and Liverpool have won 32 of those and drawn the other 6. So, yeah, get him on penalties, I'd say, and just get him on that score sheet as quickly as you can. But yeah, you're right. I think he is probably seen it in a lot of people's eyes as probably the 5th of the 5, or maybe the 4th. Him and Gakpo are probably 4th and 5th of the 5, I would suggest at the moment. But you're right. I mean, he's got that ability to do things that maybe some other players don't, and that's just the scruffy moments, the scruffy goals, the sort of those kind of goals that he got yesterday. A rebound after the goalkeeper pushes it out. You almost didn't have to look and see who was the man who's putting that in. You sort of knew it'd be a Jota goal because it's just the way it panned out. I got a message off a friend of mine later in the day, and he just said if we had a final tomorrow, I'd have Jota in my starting 11, and I sort of know what he means. If if it's going to be a tight game and if it's going to be one of those games where you might need someone to just take one chance, Jota's probably as likely as anyone in that Liverpool team, including Mo Salah. So he's having a good season. I think you'd also see a little bit of what Liverpool missed last season. There was a lot of games in the first half of last season, or even sort of around Christmas time and New Year, where maybe Liverpool go on to lose, but they had moments where if they'd have gone 1-0 up in the game, that it would have been a completely different outcome. And I even include games like the famous Brighton game away and Brentford, early in the new year, where you thought, well, do you know what? If we'd have had someone to just make it 1-0, we'd probably go on and at least get a draw, probably win the game. They never had that person for long enough periods, and Jota obviously missed. He was missing from October, I think, to February with that calf injury that he sustained, and he was a big miss. He was obviously on a bit of a goal scoring drought in the period as well. It obviously got to a year without him scoring, which is remarkable to consider. But when he came back and he got those 2 goals at Leeds, I think only Salah's got more goals since for Liverpool. So that tells you that he's back to something like his best form, and yeah, he's one of those players that I think almost there are some players that when you see them playing well, you think, okay, a goal's coming. I almost think with the opposite with Jota, I think the worse he plays, the more likely he is to score, because he just has that kind of instinct around the penalty area. He doesn't need to be doing everything right on the ball and in possession and those kind of things to score. He always has that goal scoring 6-yard box, 12-yard instinct, where you think if it falls in there, it's going to be to him and he's going to take it. So yeah, he's been a big plus for Liverpool this season. There's been a lot of big pluses, but I think Jota being available, fit and scoring is definitely a huge one. And if you think about some of the games coming up Liverpool have got, they've got some big ones obviously after the international break, none bigger than the first one after it against City, and I would expect to have Diogo Jota in that starting lineup if he's fit.
No, absolutely. I mean, we talk about the men and the goals. We also have to talk about Darwin Nunez, a man who seems to be in absolutely impeccable form at the moment, a player that has so much more confidence, about him compared to sort of last season. A lot was made of that first Benfica season compared to the second, and we appear to be seeing that sort of similar evolution, at Liverpool, because we always knew we had a player. It was just a matter of when the confidence comes and when it stays. Then we're really going to see the best out of the player that we spent a lot of money on, in the summer before last. I mean, what have you made of him so far this season? Because there's been so much to enjoy.
Yeah, enjoy is the right word. I mean, I think he's just a very good centre forward. I think it's easy to focus in, and I know. Listen, he doesn't make it easy sometimes. You look at that goal that he doesn't score against Toulouse, but Gravenberch scores, and you think, wow, just sort of kill the conversation for a bit, and he doesn't. He keeps it alive, but I just think everything else around him it's very positive. I don't think there's anything to complain about. He's also got 6 goals this season. He's averaging goal contributions in it's less than 90 minutes per goal contribution this season in terms of what he's been doing. He got another goal obviously at the weekend. He could have had more. He's just a very good centre forward. I just see it as that, and I think we've been talking for a while about if he can start taking the easy ones, then yeah, it'll make a massive difference. But even without doing that, and to be fair, he's not the only one who does that. I mean, I saw as ridiculous as it sounds, I saw Erling Haaland miss at least one chance that you think, well, you have to score. I don't see the same level of opprobrium aimed at him for that one that he misses where Onana makes a great save. But you think, well, hang on, that is a goal that he should score. The striker should score. I think if that's Nunez, I think that a lot more is made of the miss than the save, for example. So everyone misses chances, but Nunez gets so many, and he's still getting goals. He's got 6 goals. Like I say, he's got a goal or an assist in each of his last 4 games in the Premier League. So he's definitely contributing to the game. And I just think as well that the difference he's making to the way the team plays is huge. The way you can stretch teams, the way you can run in behind. Obviously, the fact that they know they've always got someone in the penalty area. Szoboszlai almost doesn't have to look for that goal. He just puts it across the 6-yard box because he knows there'll be people in there, Jota and or Nunez or both. So he's he's having a really positive impact on Liverpool. He's played his way into the team. He's obviously got the number 9 shirt now, which is symbolic as well. But he's got it metaphorically and literally at the moment. So he's right in the mix. And I think, keeping him fit, keeping him in this kind of rhythm of playing games and being able to know that he's relied upon, I think you're just going to see him go up and up and up. And you're looking now, as I say, 6 goals already, and that's probably from, I would imagine, I don't know for certain, but probably 8 or 9 starts, I would imagine, maybe less. If you're talking about him getting sort of 35, 40 starts this season in all competitions, you're looking at him getting easily 25 goals this season. I just think just from natural accumulation, he's going to get up there. So I think once he's got to those kind of levels, I think we might be able to close the debate about, what a good signing he's been for Liverpool. You can see what the fans think of him. He was the last player to leave the pitch after the game yesterday, and the fans were chanting his name. You see, even when he makes mistakes, or he gives away fouls, or he lets the ball bounce off him, or whatever he does, misses chances, they still sing his name. And I do feel like there's something really in that it doesn't happen for every club, and it doesn't happen for every player, but it's happening for him. And I think that says it all about how Liverpool fans see what he brings to the team, see what he's got in terms of his quality, but also his mentality.
I mean, he's absolutely adored, and you're spot on about the goal contributions. 11 in 13 games, I believe. I think you mentioned about his rate per 90. I think it's 1 every 57 minutes. Last time I checked, that might have deviated slightly by a minute, or two, but it's frankly astonishing numbers given the criticism he receives from neutrals and pundits beyond the borders of Merseyside. It's quite astonishing. I mean,
I also think. Sorry, Farrell. I also think. What people might say in response to that is, the numbers are one thing, but the eye test is something. But I actually just think if you look at the eye test of what he's doing, he is a good player. You're looking, he does a lot of things in games. You look at the pass he plays for Salah against Everton. You look at, the finish against Toulouse, but the first goal is a really good finish on his left foot, put right in the roof of the net. But the work to set up the chance that he misses, obviously, it's really accomplished play. He isn't just some sort of weird, crazy horse that just sort of ends up in front of goal. He's got touch, he's got pace, he's got strength. He's obviously got this real kind of subtlety to his movement, because he's always in space. He's always got time on around the penalty area. He isn't what we maybe, or what he's maybe been bracketed as, is this kind of, we've all been guilty of it, the chaos that he brings. And there was times last season when that was the case, but he's rounded off a lot of those edges, and he's become now a really sort of, all-round number 9 that can really sort of worry defences and offer a magnificent option for his midfielders and his fullbacks and his centre-halves to hit.
That's the thing. I think we don't consider, it's a lot of discussions about the goals he misses more than the goals he scores, but we're also not talking about the fact that Klopp wouldn't be playing him in this many games unless his game had rounded off, and it has rounded off considerably. I think Klopp was saying last season, the ticket into this team is going to be your pressing, your counter-pressing, that kind of thing. And Nunez has made considerable leaps in that regard. As you say, it is perhaps it's still chaos, but restrained chaos. But he's very much contributing to the overall sort of style of play in the team. You did mention before about Dominik Szoboszlai. I do want to touch upon him because I remember watching the game against Forest, and I just thought, the overlapping runs with Salah, those were the kind of things we used to see with sort of Jordan Henderson, and it seems their relationship is just as symbiotic now. It really was just a joy to watch, and I think it is probably an overlapping run as well that sets up Nunez's goal as well in the first half.
We've got a new pundit here.
We've got a visitor.
Big fan of Szoboszlai as well.
There we go.
There you go. But yeah, I think you're right. You're right in terms of that, the Henderson style-wise, not in terms of, I think they're different kinds of players, but in terms of the position that he plays, I think there's also a little bit of, I always remember when Steven Gerrard played for Liverpool, you would almost see, it was like this sort of seal of approval that Gerrard would give, where he'd start, a new player had come, and if Gerrard gravitated towards them in terms of his passing and his sort of relationship with them, you'd sort of say, okay, right, this is going to be a big player for Liverpool, and think of Torres, think of Suarez in that sense. I think you see that with Salah a little bit. You see when Salah starts to sort of really, you see that he loves to pass to Szoboszlai. He seems to have, they really trust each other. Obviously on the ball, they gravitate towards that side of the pitch as well. With that trio with Trent in there. So yeah, you're definitely seeing that. I think Szoboszlai has made a big impression on his teammates, not just the supporters. He's made a big impression on the team that they see that, oh wow, we've got one here, haven't we? We've signed the real top player. I watched him in the warm up, Szoboszlai. Liverpool do the shooting drill down at the Cop end, and he just has this sort of thing about him where when he hits it, the ball just moves differently. So even brilliant players that Liverpool have in their team, can strike the ball. Salah can whip it anywhere you want. Obviously Nunez can strike the ball really, really powerfully. McAllister can hit the ball, Gravenberch. But Szoboszlai just has this technique that just makes it move a bit quicker, a bit sweeter. A little bit like Kevin De Bruyne. When you see him sort of, he generates more power with almost with less effort. And Szoboszlai has that about him. There's just a touch of class almost about everything that he does. But on top of that, he isn't languid and lazy and sort of, he doesn't sit and ping it around. He gets about the pitch as well. And I think that's just such an exciting sort of package, as the manager might call it, that, he's got legs, he's got energy, he's obviously got some discipline to him in terms of his position and in terms of his work ethic, but he's also got incredible quality as well. And he was by far the best player on the pitch, I thought, yesterday. Everything he did, even you look at the numbers, his influence is there for everyone to see. But just watching him play at the moment is a real joy. And you think he's only just turned 23 recently. You think, wow, there's a high ceiling there, isn't there? There's a real potential for him to go on and establish himself as one of the best midfielders in the Premier League, and obviously as one of the big leaders of Liverpool going forward. And he's already sort of moved into a very prominent first team role, hasn't he? He pretty much starts every game, doesn't he? Every game that matters. I mean, he's definitely a player that's going to have a big say in Liverpool's future. And I like as well. I mean, I watched his interview that he did with LFC TV afterwards, and I just like his style. Really, he doesn't say a lot in terms of a lot of words, but he makes a point, and he made a point yesterday. He said this team can achieve, or this group can achieve, a lot this season, and I quite like that he came in. He's a new player. He's not sort of playing down any expectations or sort of saying, oh, we just need to keep, adapt or do any of this thing. He's basically laid it on the line straight away and said, yeah, we want to go to the top. And I think that mentality will stand Liverpool in good stead going forward.
I mean, it's exactly the kind of thing you want to see from one of Liverpool's best players, isn't it? I mean, I remember sort of talking just after pre-season, I think it was the Darmstadt game, and I think we were sort of saying, he seemed to be struggling a bit. Maybe we might want to give him a bit more time. McAllister seems to be the man who's going to sort of come in and settle in sort of right away. And it's straight off from the first game of the season, straight over to the 3-0 win over Nottingham Forest. He's just been instrumental to everything good that Liverpool has done in the league and beyond. There's one other sort of Liverpool summer signing I do want to touch upon. That's Wataru Endo, who was absolutely phenomenal, I thought, in the Europa League game. Won 10 out of 15 of his duels, 5 tackles, 3 interceptions. A really, really solid defensive display. He had a cameo, of course, against Forest. But I mean, I'm curious about where you sort of see him going forward, because we've seen this from players before. Sometimes they take a bit more time to settle. Sometimes Klopp wants them. It's minutes here and there, and then boom, they're in the side and they're in until the rest of the season. But given the links that we do see to Liverpool needing a specialist sort of holding 6, I mean, where does it go from here? Do you feel it's the case that sort of the current situation will persist? It will be minutes in the Europa League, minutes in the cups, or do you think it will be the case it will just suddenly come in and it will be okay? We'll turn around. That's your position there in the league for the foreseeable future.
No, I think the only way that'll be the case is if there's injuries, which is a fair thing to expect, isn't it? At the moment, Liverpool's midfield is 3 from 4, isn't it? And I think we can safely say McAllister's in, Szoboszlai's in, and then it's Curtis Jones and Ryan Gravenberch for the extra spot on the left. But obviously injuries, suspensions, we've seen that with Curtis. He was in the side, and now he's got a battle to get back in after his suspension. So I think circumstances would only be the way that Endo is to get into the Premier League team for a long run. But there's enough cup games coming up. I mean, they've got Bournemouth on Wednesday. They've got Toulouse, obviously, the week week after. They've still got obviously Union and Lask coming up in the Europa League as well, and fingers crossed they get through in the Carabao as well. So there's more there. I think he's shown that he's getting up to speed. Endo, I think every time you see him, he looks a little bit more at home. Even yesterday he came on and there was a great moment where he went sort of shoulder to shoulder with Taiwo one use of big old unit, for Forest. He came on as sub and he won that duel, didn't he, and won Liverpool a throw in, and you could see the appreciation of the fans. That was a really good duel. And a duel won from Endo, so I think we're definitely seeing positive signs there. And that's the sort of the aim, isn't it? Of these cup games, is to get these players up to speed, so that if you do get an injury to Alexis McAllister or whoever, then you can just put them in, and they're not sort of coming in completely cold and looking like they haven't played football for 6 months. They're up to speed, they're into the rhythm, they know what's expected, of playing in that position. They know how the team works and where players are on the pitch at any given time. And I think you're seeing that with Endo. You're seeing that I think at first, I think it was a bit of a whirlwind for him. I'm not saying he was out of his depth, but I think he did. You could see that he was having to adapt to a new speed of play and a new way of playing. Sorry, and I don't feel that anymore. When you see him in the team, you see that he just looks like a player that, okay, yeah, he might not be as tall and as strong as Fabinho. He might not be as kind of classy in possession as a Szoboszlai or a McAllister, but he knows how to play football. He reminds me a little bit, when I watch him, he reminds me a little bit of James Milner in terms of, he looks like he does everything quite well. He looks like he is sort of, his natural thought is for the team. He never ever looks to me like he's doing anything for effect or for show. That he's trying to sort of take an extra touch when he doesn't need to. He just looks like he's someone who, will be a very solid member of the squad, and it bodes well, doesn't it? Liverpool, we expect almost Liverpool to get injuries as they go through a season. Every team will get them, but if you can have replacement players like Endo, like Costa Simicas, who I thought did quite well yesterday, like Joe Gomez, Joel Matip, Cody Gakpo, whoever, Harvey Elliott, if you can have them all in a sense of they've had a good game recently, or they've made a contribution recently in the cups, then when they're needed in the Premier League, then that's only going to benefit Liverpool going forward.
No, absolutely. You mentioned James Milner there. I'm sure many Liverpool fans would be keen to see him firmly replaced in the squad. Such a valuable player in terms of what he brought, not just on the pitch, but also his leadership capabilities. We did speak about sort of holding midfielders. Obviously, the links will persist with Fluminense's Andre. And I'm very curious to hear what you think of his. I don't know if you've seen his interview with Fluminense. He was discussing a big offer he'd received from a big European club, which we can only imagine to be Liverpool Football Club. But he said, he wanted to keep his word to the manager. He wanted to keep his word to Fluminense and stay with them until the end of the season. They're obviously in a big final coming up very soon in November, I believe. I mean, obviously, if you were asking us as Liverpool fans, we'd have loved to have seen him make the summer move. But I think it's a really positive indication of character. A player that is keeping his word, that very much cares about that sort of side of the game. It wasn't just motivated by the big move, by the big money. He really wanted to, just keep his word. I just think that's a very sort of positive indication of a player that Liverpool are linked with, have been linked with heavily since the summer.
Yeah, I think also if they go on to win the Copa Libertadores, then it bodes well for Liverpool if and when they do go back and forth, because he's got something under his belt, hasn't he? That he's experienced a big final. He's been a winner. He's brought some kind of winning experience. And you look at some of the players Liverpool have signed, that has defined them, hasn't it? You look at Alexis McAllister, for example. Huge, the biggest of all, but you look at Szoboszlai, obviously scored in a cup final last season. Obviously Ryan Gravenberch's won league titles with Ajax, with Bayern, albeit as a bit part player. You look at obviously the status that some of the players have. Szoboszlai being the captain of Hungary, Wataru Endo being the captain of Japan. Liverpool like that kind of idea that a player's shown that they can handle pressure, responsibility, expectation. So yeah, if Fluminense go on and win that tournament, obviously, then I think it's another tick in the box, if you like, for someone like Andre. I mean, listen, we can debate and we'll see whether Liverpool do go back in and try and sign him. But yeah, I don't think anyone would begrudge the player the idea that no, I want to stay and help my club win. Their version of the Champions League, isn't it? We certainly wouldn't criticise a European player for wanting to stay and play in a Champions League final. So we certainly shouldn't for a South American player.
No, it's coming across very likeable already, which is already a plus, especially if we go on to sign the player. As you say, we'll have to see what happens. We're still a good month or so away from the January window opening, but it's there, it's present in everyone's minds. I do want to pull away briefly, lastly, just to discuss a topic that has attracted some media attention, and that's the nature of Micky van der Ven's move to Tottenham Hotspur. He's obviously had a very strong start under manager Ange Postecoglou. Tottenham have had a very good start, it's fair to say, top of the league, and well deserved. It may have, and I've certainly seen online, some fans wondering how Liverpool missed out after being so strongly linked in the summer. Obviously, I think the Independent's Miguel Delaney has shed some slight light on this and was talking about Liverpool not being able to guarantee game time whilst the likes of Virgil van Dijk, Ibrahima Konate are in the side, and that's a perfectly rational explanation. Van der Ven's gone to Tottenham. He's started, I believe, pretty much every league, if not all league games under Tottenham. So you can see why the player has made the decision. The player has made a footballing decision. We can respect that. What are your thoughts on this? Because do you feel that sort of Liverpool have missed out regardless, or is it just a case of, we go, it is what it is, and we'll just see what pops up in the market?
Yeah, well, it's difficult because he's a left-sided centre-back, and obviously we know Liverpool have been looking for a left-sided centre-back. But what we said in the summer many, many times was that it had to be one that was going to be happy to be fourth and fifth choice, because Virgil van Dijk is Liverpool's left-sided centre-back, and, of course, you can play a left-sided centre-back on the right, but it isn't ideal. You can move Virgil van Dijk to the right, but it isn't ideal. You speak to anyone who's played as a centre-back and they'll tell you that you have your preferred side and it works out best. And you see it very regularly with certain defenders that they always play, even if they're right-footed, they might play on the left. Even if they play with different partners, they always play in a certain position. So we wouldn't have seen Micky van der Ven play 10 Premier League games or start 10 Premier League games had he joined Liverpool. That's for certain. He looks a very good player. I watched the Crystal Palace game on Friday, and his recovery speed is huge. He looks like he's good on the ball. He's obviously a really good size, and he's young, and he's going to get better, you would imagine. So he is clearly a very good signing for Tottenham, and he's made a big impact there. Whether he'd have made the same impact at Liverpool, probably not, because he wouldn't have got as many games. But it would have been nice to have him in the squad, and nice to have been able to bring him into Europa League games and see how big he can become. But I don't think you can sort of get bogged down too much in this. We've missed out there. There's been a lot of players that Liverpool could have signed and haven't signed. There's been a lot of players. I mean, listen, another example would be Mason Mount, wouldn't it? You'd look at Mason Mount and say, Liverpool wanted to sign him. Well, it doesn't look like they've missed out at the moment. But on the flip side, you could have said, well, would he have looked the same as he looks at United had he come into Liverpool? So we'll never know. We'll watch his development, I'm sure, with interest. But remember, Liverpool didn't sign him. They kept Joel Matip, Joe Gomez, Jarell Quansah as their sort of backup options, Konate. And they're only 3 points behind Spurs. Haven't had tougher fixtures, and had a referee done his job at Spurs, or VAR done his job at Spurs, we might have been talking about the opposite situation. So I don't think Liverpool need to be having too much sort of regrets, or too many regrets about the situation. But give credit to Spurs, they went and got a good player in, and it's made a big difference to them. We'll see how long or how far they can go this season. They look good at the moment. I think there's some big tests coming up for them soon enough. I think they've got Chelsea in the next game at home, and then a few tough fixtures in November, December as well. So I think it's an intriguing situation at the top of the Premier League. You look at the top five all winning at the weekend, little gap opening up to Newcastle. And I think really, I don't want to dismiss Aston Villa too readily, but I think you look at those top four and you think if they can sort of keep it going until the international break, I think all four of them will be starting to think about the T word and the title challenge word. I think they're in good shape, aren't they? And Liverpool are certainly among that. Tottenham at the moment are among that. Arsenal are among that. And of course, the other lot as well.
No, it's looking very tight at the top of the table, isn't it? Very,
Yeah,
very tight, and as you say, 3 points, and Aston Villa are a point behind us. So it's you don't want to count them out entirely. It's certainly been an absolutely phenomenal start from Unai Emery's.
Fantastic, and home
Yeah.
record as well. I mean, that's what it's built. I think it's 12 home wins in a row, isn't it? Villa have got, which is just absolutely incredible. For any club, but for a club like Villa, where, with the greatest respect, they're not a winning machine, are they? They're not this sort of club where you go, well, they always win at home. They should win more than their fair share, but to win a dozen home games in a row, and I think also they look an exciting side as well, don't they? They've got good players. Watkins and Leon Bailey and Moussa Diaby in particular. Fantastic players. They've got real sort of vibrancy about them. And listen, I know within the sort of press box or my sort of press box pals, Villa Park's always a sort of one of our favourite kind of away games and sort of places to go and visit. So yeah, it is quite nice to see that bouncing at the moment. Hopefully not bouncing too high. Obviously, hopefully fifth is just about fine for them. We'll hope they stay where they are there. But brilliant for Unai Emery, brilliant for them, and yeah, it makes it nice and tight and interesting at the top.
No, I heard someone the other day call them Aston Sevilla. He absolutely transformed them into. It's incredible what he's done. It's incredible what he's done. But I mean, you've mentioned, of course, before previously, Joel Matip, Joel Quansah, Joe Gomez. It's not like Liverpool don't have very solid options waiting in the wings, and certainly the two senior options there have very much improved their performances to the disaster that was the prior season. So, I mean, it's a tough one, I think, as well, when we're talking about finding a player that's going to happily sit behind one of the greatest centre-backs of all time in the Premier League, in Virgil van Dijk, and, be a young centre-back. That's quite daunting. I think maybe we might be underappreciating how difficult a task it is for Liverpool's recruitment team to find someone who's willing to do that, who can grow to eventually, you'd hope, succeed Virgil, whenever that case may be. It's a difficult balance to strike, because do you wait until, you get to the point where Virgil's 35, 34, 36, and you go, oh, he's on the way out, really, but then you're putting a lot of pressure on someone, or is there that perfect player out there who's just willing to sit and bide their time? It's a tough one.
And it is a tough one, and especially with the way Virgil's playing at the moment as well. He's not showing any sign of decline this season, is he? If anything, he's showing the opposite. He's showing that he's sort of rediscovering almost top form. I thought he was excellent again on Sunday. I thought he was excellent against Everton. Just the week before, he's had more good games than bad, certainly this season. So yeah, it's not even a case of you're looking at Virgil and saying, there might be games where you can sort of take him out of the team. He's the captain now, of course, as well. So he's going to expect to play every league game, and it is a really difficult balancing act. Of course, there will be players out there, and it is possible to do it, but it is a tough ask, and I think it'll be interesting to see what Liverpool do. If not in January, fingers crossed they don't need to do anything in January because circumstances don't force their hand. But certainly next summer, because the likelihood is that Matip will leave. Of course, Gomez I think he's done really well this season, Joe Gomez, but he's done most of his work as a sort of a fullback. Or more of his work as a fullback, certainly than the centre back. And I think Kanate, we're still hoping for him to just nail down that run of games, aren't we? Where he plays 15, 20 games sort of in a row without any hiccups. He had a bit of an issue after the international break, didn't he, with fatigue and not getting a rest. I know the manager wasn't particularly happy with Didier Deschamps at France, but there is a space, you would imagine, there for a centre back to come in next summer, at least one. And it will be interesting to see sort of what type of profile it is. Is it a really young centre back who grows? Is it an established centre back who's sort of ready to straight away be in the team? Is it a versatile player who maybe can play full back as well as centre back? So I think it will be interesting to see how Liverpool handle it. But I think what we've seen so far this season is we're away from that position where if Liverpool don't do something in the transfer market, it's completely puts the brakes on everything. They have got players who can plug gaps and fill voids, and they can rely on some of their more consistent performers, their more reliable performers to up their game, up their levels, and sort of show that last season was just a blip and last season wasn't the real Liverpool. I think we're seeing a lot more from this Liverpool team that gives you positivity of the future.
No, absolutely. I think we're seeing more of certainly the real Liverpool 2.0 so far. I mean, we talked about Tottenham's sort of early games and their fixtures are going to turn. Liverpool, by contrast, have had a far difficult start, and it's been a really sort of impressive start. You mentioned as well, had the VAR decision gone the right way, we might be talking about a very different table. So all in all, we can't really complain. 3 points from the top. It's been a very, very positive start from Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool. Neil, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on here as always. Everyone, you can all follow Neil's work on covering Liverpool at neilj.substack.com. Lots of good bits there that you can dive into every single week. And of course, you can follow Neil online on Twitter at Neil Jones Goal. Neil, it's been fantastic having you here. And of course, everyone can watch this here on our Substack as well on empireofthecop.substack.com. We'll be publishing this on our YouTube as well for the video and audio versions, which you can find on our Twitter. We might even publish them on Facebook for everyone just to make it a little bit easier. I've been Farrell Keeling. This has been the lovely Neil Jones here with us today on Empire of the Cop at Empire of the Cop Insider. Thank you for watching and listening. Take care.